Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Captain Logan Show. I am Captain Logan, of course, and joining me today, as always, is our chat moderator and producer, Danny Nixon. Hello, Danny Nixon.
Hey, everybody, and as DJ calls it, the Danny Nixon Show, so I'm quite fond of that title.
Oh, man, are you gunning for my job now?
I'm taking over. Jason took my job, so I'm taking your job.
Wow. All right. Well, I mean, folks, feel free to ask Danny Nixon questions too today if you want to, and I'll just get up and go get something to drink in the interim. Anyway, Danny, was it just me, or did it take a lot longer for the show, for the stream to actually go live this time? I was kind of sitting there like,
it did.
On the seconds.
I thought you had clicked it, and then it didn't go on, and I was like, did he click it or not? So I'm trying to be quiet just so I'm not talking halfway through it opens.
I saw that in your face. I could tell you were like, I want to say something, but then that might end up looking really unprofessional.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody in the comments. Good to see you. I see Lone Wolf, Jedi of Gotham, Blue Dragon 5, Kellen O'Rourke is here. William Parcell is here. Jeffrey Patron. DJ was able to make it today. We're broadcasting on a Thursday today instead of a Wednesday because yesterday was July 4th, so happy Independence Day to everybody in America, and happy normal Wednesday, 4th of July to everybody else that's not from here. And DJ usually can't make it because he's usually in his car, so he'll like listen some on his way back, but he can't really like talk much because you don't want to text in your car. And he sent me a message today and he was like, hey, I actually get to be there today. I'm not gonna be in my car. The Ponderer is here. Hi, everybody. Good. He says Thursdays with a thumbs up. So anyway, it's good to see everybody. Today, we're going to mix things up a little bit, and instead of another theme show, I'm going to do a general open forum, but before that happens, I'm going to talk about a couple of news items because the Omnibus is every 3 weeks now. And when we get to the captain's log on the Omnibus, we end up talking about a lot of stuff that's like really old by that point and that people have kind of already thought about and moved on from. And it's like, us time traveling and talking about a thing that is no longer really relevant. So I want to start occasionally talking a little bit about like kind of breaking news and things that have happened really recently that I just want to make sure that I weigh in on. And I'm sure a lot of stuff will continue to come up in Q&A. So feel free to still ask me about news items that I haven't tackled yet, and just understand that they may come up again on the forum, or excuse me, on the Omnibus, the Captain's Log, so that Eric and I can both talk about them, and he and I will continue to talk about kind of the bigger, meatier things, especially the later, meatier things. I'm also kicking around adding a second Captain Logan show during the week because I'm a crazy person, and I don't have enough time to do that, but I'm still thinking about trying to work it in somehow. So that I can do like a straight up news thing. I've been talking to a lot of people about that, and folks kind of like that idea. It seems like on the whole, but I've got a baby coming and things, so I don't really know when I would do it. I don't know where I would work it in. So it's a thing I'm kicking around, but I don't want to announce it because I don't know if that's going to actually end up being able to happen. And I should also mention that this show may not be able to continue on a Wednesday afternoon after the baby is born because I don't have like a live-in babysitter or anything, and so I have to take care of the baby during the day. That's one of my many jobs, one of the many hats I wear. So this show may have to start happening in the evening or even later at night, and I will let folks know when we get closer to time when the show will change. But I wanted to talk a little bit about the announced Infinity War director's cut. Did you hear about this, Danny?
A director's cut?
Yeah.
Someone in the chat mentioned an extended cut, and I just kind of brushed it off as...
Well, I said directors. Yeah, it's an extended cut. That's what I meant to say. Apparently, there's a half an hour of Thanos backstory, and we knew about this, that was left on the cutting room floor. And when I first saw this article, and apparently Jim Starlin, of all people, announced this and was really excited that people were finally going to get to see the Thanos backstory. And I was skeptical of it at first. I was like, there's no way they're going to add that back in. They've never done that. To my knowledge, I don't remember any MCU movie that has ever had a director's cut. And I've given Warner's a lot of flack for doing this with the DC Extended Universe. We have 2 movies already. I think just 2. I don't think anything else has done it.
No, Man of Steel
Man of Steel didn't do it, and Wonder Woman didn't do it, and Justice League didn't do it. But people have been wanting the Snyder Cut for Justice League, but we'll probably never get to see that. I still hope that comes out at some point. I hope the fan base can pressure Warner's and make it clear enough that we really would like to see it, no matter how bizarre it might be, just for the sake of historical significance. I want to see what that looks like.
Yeah, that might end up being the next Donner cut, where everyone really wanted the Donner cut of Superman 2. And
right.
Then,
the difference is they wanted to piece this one together. They just have it already.
Yeah.
All they have to do is give it to us, even if they just streamed it. I would understand if they didn't even want to release that. Although my collection would be sad; it would cry. But
that would be a nice thing to add to the DC universe. Give it another exclusive.
So DJ says if ever there was a time for it, this would be the film, and I'm assuming he's referring to the Infinity War movie. So let's talk about that for a little bit. I'm glad we're gonna get to see it, and I'm glad it's back in the movie and not just special features. Kind of. I wish it had just been released that way. Danny, I don't think you can convince me that movie doesn't still do the exact guns it did if it's 3 hours long.
Yeah, it was such an event because not only was it the culmination of 10 years of the Marvel Universe, it was also the third Avengers film, which is a trilogy of a bunch of different trilogies.
Yeah.
Sort of. It was such a huge event that I think people would have shown up for a 4-hour showing, honestly. It would have hurt business because of you've only got 24 hours in a day and you can only show so many movies in a day, but I don't think it would have deterred anyone from going to go see Avengers Infinity War, no matter how long it was.
So folks are getting ahead of me, but I'll go ahead and read this comment. Ponderer says, I think the extended cut should be perfectly fine, assuming it literally is all backstory and not stuff that changes the meaning of Infinity War in ways that don't get acknowledged in Avengers 4. That's fair, but I'm somewhat of a purist with a thing like this, Danny. I feel weird having anything in an extended cut, especially if it informs character motivation, that I can't be sure counts moving forward, even if it's never addressed. I just don't like it. I resist that really, really hard. And they can come out, Marvel can come out and they can say that it's canon, and that would help, I guess, if they said, yeah, this is canon. But then my complaint becomes, and then, you can reference it after that and it's fine. But then my complaint is going to be, I wasted a lot of time talking about an incomplete film.
Yeah, especially with something.
Any way you slice it, I didn't fully buy what they were selling with Thanos and with his motivations, and I needed a lot more to understand why. And I've talked about this a lot. He wouldn't just. Why he wasn't more creative and clever in just using the gauntlet to double the size of the universe or give us a lot more resources or whatever it was. And especially if that backstory fleshes that out and makes me totally buy it, and suddenly I find him as sympathetic as a lot of people did because I just couldn't quite go there with it. That's going to really bug me, Danny, because I spent a lot of time talking about it, and now it's kind of an incomplete piece. But I hope it's a better piece, you know what I mean? Because that was my one big frustration with an otherwise wonderful film, and then I'll just wish that that had been put out in the theater in the first place. So understand, I'm glad we're getting it, especially if it makes him make a lot more sense, and if I buy him more. But they should have just put it in the theater, and it's going to be really strange if Avengers 4, whether it's titled Endgame or whatever that ends up being called, it's going to be really strange if that movie ends up being a lot longer, because the Russos have talked about it like, well, it could be the first like 2:45 3-hour movie, and if they do that, I'll be like, well, then why didn't you just release it the way it was?
Exactly. If there was ever a time to push the envelope of how long a film can be for mass audiences, it would be Infinity War, because that is a film that even people who aren't following the MCU were super excited for, just because the hype built by the fans of that cinematic universe.
You're right. It could hurt the next one in a way it wouldn't have that one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Christopher in the comments says, apparently the Blu-ray doesn't have the 30 minutes of deleted Thanos scenes included, so if there's an extended cut, that'll probably come out later down the line. That's right. We have seen a list of the features that are supposed to be on the Blu-ray, and that came out a while back, and none of the deleted scenes, as far as I could see, were about Thanos' backstory, and this is going to be later. So the other thing I wanted to mention is, and I don't know, maybe that movie, and Danny, just put that super chat in the back of your mind if you would.
Okay.
that release is going to be really weird. I'm going to assume that the extended cut probably won't come out until just before Avengers 4 does. I bet they don't put that out until a couple months before that, but who knows? I guess we'll see. But we haven't gotten any kind of a release date or anything. And again, that was just Jim Starlin talking. So I'm assuming that that's a real thing. I don't know why he would make that up or what would lead him to think that that was happening if it wasn't. But the first release for Infinity War is going to be really weird, especially if it has a commentary track, because that's going to end up being a whole lot like Force Awakens was, where they can't really say anything because they can't talk about the future of it, and it's a story that keeps going and isn't really done yet. So this might be the first movie in a long time for superhero stuff, Danny, that I don't buy right when it comes out. I'm going to wait for that other release.
Yeah, it would not. Well, the news that the Blu-ray description doesn't have the 30 minutes doesn't surprise me at all, since every single extended cut we get is a second release after. Like the Road cut was a second release after. The extended BVS cut was a separate release. You could buy that, or you could buy the standard release.
Right, but it wasn't later. They came out simultaneously, if memory serves, or did they not?
I thought the extended cut of Batman vs Superman came out maybe a month later, because I remember having.
Maybe it was. It was real close though.
It was close because I remember buying the standard cut because I just wanted to have it in my collection. And I was like, all right, I'm fine double dipping and getting this and then getting the extended cut, even though I know the extended cut has the theatrical cut on it, because I was still buying into the hype.
Yeah, Lone Wolf Jedi is right. The Road cut was also later. Yeah. So no, and I think part of the reason we do that probably is just not to confuse audiences that just want to see the thing they saw in the theater.
Yeah, and the cynical part of me says it's so they can double dip and make more money. But you're probably
that's right. I guess I'm being overly positive. No, that's fair. Because if you release it again, guys like me are but then if you put them both out at the same time, if the special features are different, I'm gonna buy them both for the sake of my collection. So well, not even just with special features. Like if there are two sizably different cuts of a thing, I have to have them both. That's how I roll. But anyway, so I just wanted to weigh in on that for a minute and say I'm glad we're gonna get to see that, and I'm curious to see what my analysis ends up looking like after that. But now I wish I'd waited and didn't even talk about that movie until this was out, because I feel like I talked about an incomplete film.
Yeah, when I first heard the news...
It's just like Watchmen in that way, except we didn't get more Watchmen, so we didn't have to deal with whether things were canonical later or not. I can just say the ultimate cut is canonical, and it's kind of dumb to argue with that, because who wants to be like, well, these other scenes that weren't there that do kind of inform the piece don't count. It's a standalone piece.
They should release an animated short in the extended cut of Avengers Infinity War and call it the ultimate cut, and just have their version of Tales of the Black Friar thrown in there at random parts that just don't make sense at all.
I hope this is the last time. I hope that we're smart to put out movies that take the time to tell the story and just get them out there. I go this far. Maybe I sound like a crazy person. If it took 4 hours to tell your story, just have an intermission or put it out a couple of months apart, and put out a part 1 and then a part 2 and then release them together. I have no problem with that. But take the time it takes to tell the story. We need to stop gutting these things because we're afraid that that people's attention spans can't handle more than 2 or 2:15 with a movie with 64 protagonists.
Yeah, especially when
we've got to figure this out.
Especially when the original plan was for this to be a 2-parter, and they were filming it simultaneously so they could do closer releases than what you would normally get for a sequel to any movie.
Yeah, how weird is it going to be? And that's what they should have stuck to that. I mean, how weird is it going to be? And each of those could have been 2.5, 3 hours. I don't care. I mean, it could have been Lord of the Rings, right? I don't care. Maybe that's going to hurt you a smidge, but I don't think anything like what they're worried about. I think people are invested enough in that universe and in these things as event things versus the smaller films. I get if you don't want to make a 3-hour Ant-Man movie, maybe you in the first place come up with a story that would not take that long to tell. But come on, you got 64 main characters. I know it's not that many, but okay, I'm gonna deal with a couple of super chats, and then I'm gonna deal with one more quick news item, and then we'll go ahead and cut to open forum.
Okay. Dave Atkins has 2 super chats. The first one is...
Thanks, Dave. He's giving me pounds. So if I ever go to Europe, or if I ever go to Britain, I should say, then I can. No, I'm kidding. It's converted, but it's always fun when I see the pound because I'm like, oh, I should learn how to calculate that so I can figure out like how many US dollars that actually is.
Yeah, it changes every couple of months, I think, with the way the market works. So I never really keep up with the conversion rate. But he asked thoughts on the canceled Justice League Mortal. That was the Mad Max.
That was the movie. Yeah, I think so. Honestly, I haven't looked into that in a long time. I forget. We got a picture that was allegedly everybody in costume a couple weeks ago. Did you see that?
Yeah, the like potato quality picture where it looks like you took a 100 pixel image and pulled it up to about 400 pixels.
That's right. Yeah, but for as well as I could see what the suits were supposed to look like, they looked kind of cool.
Yeah, it looked better than what I would assume we do at the time period that was going to be made, and the bat suit looked closer to what a comic book bat suit looked like than I thought we would get at that time period. When we were still in the Burton all black, or I guess we hadn't gotten the Batman Begins still sort of all black leather type of look. But
without knowing too much about the story they were going to tell, I think that was supposed to be a Brainiac thing. Am I right about that? I forget.
I think so.
But I still kind of wish that had gotten made, and that we had started an extended universe from the Justice League plays. I always, and it's easy retroactively to say, see, I told you so. I'm not saying that a Superman movie leading into a shared universe is not a fine idea if it's the right Superman movie. But I always said that the way to go up against Marvel and still look kind of fresh, it might have been to do the inverse and start with a team and then make some singular character movies, because nothing has to be an origin after that. You know who all these characters are, and it was. And I mean, like, that seemed to still be the conventional wisdom by the time we got to Justice League, because they had made a few movies, but besides Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman already was in a movie before she got her movie. So still, we don't have to deal with origin stories for anybody. They seem to be really anti-origin over there at DC. And I think that's a good strategy, potentially. I'm not saying origins are inherently bad, but nearly every singular Marvel character movie has had to start in an origin place, and they've been surprisingly good considering that. But I don't know. It would be really interesting, of course, to know what the future of DC movies had been if we had that instead of Green Lantern. Because I want to say that was Green Lantern like in the middle of being made as they were putting that thing together. I forget, because wasn't that supposed to be like 2010?
Mortal in 2010? Yeah, I thought it was earlier. I thought
it was Mortal, or even like 8 or 9. I forget, but I guess it would have been pre-Green Lantern.
Yeah, it would have been before Green Lantern and after Batman Begins, because they were still, I think part of the hesitation was, do we want 2 separate Batman on the big screen at one time?
Christopher says Mortal was 08. I forgot it was that far back. I couldn't remember if I was making videos yet or not.
Okay, that seems to fit with the timeline, I guess.
So apparently not. What's the other super chat?
He asks, have you still not seen Extreme Ghostbusters? He says he loves it himself.
I've seen Extreme Ghostbusters, a little bit of it. I watched back when the 2016 movie was coming out. I watched the first couple episodes of that, and it was interesting. I don't have a lot to say about it, but it was kind of a fun, eclectic group, and it was a little bit more sophisticated than you might expect for a show like that. I've heard that it doesn't have a real heavy continuity, so it's kind of a lot of real one and done episodes, and that seemed like the perfect kind of show to do more of an ongoing story with. So I kind of wish they had done that. But if you had done a Ghostbusters sequel, like a decades later sequel, that seemed like the right kind of premise, where you had one of, if not several of the original Ghostbusters pass the torch off, but maybe are still there sort of as the Zordon of the group, and they did that with Egon, and I liked that a lot. And they it was kind of fun to see the kinds of ways that they could get the guy with the wheelchair into situations without that being like too cumbersome for it, because like I thought that was a really ambitious idea. Like we're gonna have this guy in a wheelchair in action scenes. How do you do that? And sometimes it was sometimes it was really funny, the sorts of things that he could do in that wheelchair. It was like that is impossible. But it was a cool effort to try to have a handicapped person as an action hero and see if you can actually make it work. And but yeah, I don't know, what I saw of that I liked a lot. And the main girl in that show is in the Burnham comics, and I like her there a lot. He's run with her and done, Kylie I think is her name. He's done quite a bit with her.
I have actually never even heard of Extreme Ghostbusters. So I am wholly unqualified to put any input into that.
I saw the pilot, so there you go. Okay, the other thing, let's see. We're already almost half an hour in. I'll mention this last thing real quick. I forgot to talk at all about DC Universe on the last on the last omnibus, and the captain's log is up for that, so you can see Eric and I talking about news going all the way back for the last 3 weeks there in the playlist. That'll go live probably actually right after this. I meant to do that earlier, so I'll do that later today. That video will go public. But I forgot to talk about DC Universe there. Danny, I have been blown away by the advertising for that. I'm really impressed with it. It's one of those things that I almost want to give my money just because I'm so impressed with how they're selling it and how they're making it a multimedia thing and very separate from and very different from any other kind of subscription service that I've seen. I didn't expect comics on that. I think that's maybe we did talk about this on the Captain Logan show last week. I don't remember, but I wanted to bring it up again in case I didn't. But were you surprised to see comics? That's really cool.
I was really surprised that they did. Dave Atkins has another super chat. Says, fan of John Campea. Him and you are my favorite YouTubers. I'm assuming he's talking about you and not me.
Oh, hey, thanks. Yeah, Danny's my favorite YouTuber. But yeah, no, I don't right off know who that is. I'm sorry to say.
He used to do the AMC live movie show, and then.
Oh, okay. Sure. I haven't watched a lot of those. People send me Collider videos all the time, but I just don't have time to watch a lot of YouTube videos. And I tell folks there are several people that send me links to articles during the week trying to get me to talk about things on this show and on the omnibus, and I really appreciate it because I get to be really lazy, Danny. I don't have to do any research at all. People send me. I'm kidding. I go look for things sometimes. And make sure that I'm kind of up to date on stuff, but I get inundated with links to things, and I always tell people and the MVP there is Malik Myers. A lot of the big articles that I end up talking about here I get from Malik, and he's real quick on the button with those, and I really appreciate him for that. But I see why I come out and say this, and now when I get done with the show, I'm gonna have a bunch of messages from people who are gonna be like, "Cap, did you know about this thing?" But anyway, what I always tell people though is, please don't send me videos because I don't watch videos to get news. I know a lot of people like to do that, and that's great, and obviously I try to provide that a little bit myself. But I prefer to read when it comes to news, so I don't watch a lot of Collider videos and things like that. But anyway, what were we talking about? So you were in the middle of talking about DC Universe.
Yeah, the curated comic selection that they're doing. I heard some people kind of mumble around that they hoped it did something similar to Marvel Unlimited, where you could get comics, maybe not day-and-day release comics.
Like 6 months out or whatever?
6 months out, or some of the trades that have been put out, the collections. I'm curious to see what they do with it being a curated comic selection. I don't know if that means it's going to be a constantly revolving thing of, here's what we're trying to push this month. It'll be Wonder Woman this month. It'll be Batman this month. Or if it'll have a steady collection of, here's some of the definitive Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman stuff that you can go through and read. But anything that sets it apart from any just, here's some videos you can watch type of streaming service, I am all for.
That's right. It would be neat if it was a library, but I'm not going to complain regardless of what it ends up being unless it's a bunch of stray single issues and you get no story arcs at all. I think that would be kind of unfair. But even if it was every month they gave you a different grouping of things that you could look at, and they were graphic novels or miniseries or you know, a part, the beginning of a run or a whole run, and you know, even if it was like you were saying, like this month it's Batman, next month it's Justice League. It's just cool. There's comics there. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was going to be only a streaming service, and I also like the deep pulls for a lot of the movies they're putting there. It looks like they're going to do maybe their whole superhero library going all the way back.
It looks like it. And
or at least older stuff, at least like 2000s backwards. It looks like they're gonna have everything, like and a bunch of stuff that nobody's gonna care about. Like Catwoman is there, Superman 3 is there, but I just think it's really cool they're gonna have those kinds of deep pulls.
Yeah, and it'll give me an excuse to watch the movies that I'm not going to put in my collection, like Catwoman.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do anything for me because I collect everything, so I have all that. But you know, it's not all about me. I think it's really cool that they're gonna have that for folks, and that they're you know, kind of building it up and buttering us up with things that aren't just their original series. And I'm also glad that I mean, it's also really good that they're starting with as many new things as they are. But so I hesitantly say that I'm really excited about that. Like the advertising is impressive. They're making me interested. I think they're going to make a lot of. I think this is likely to really work, Danny. But the one question I have is, it all looks really cool, depending on the price point, right? Like, because we don't know that yet, or at least I haven't seen anything about pricing yet. If it's $7 or $8, okay. If it's 15, they're in trouble.
Warner Brothers has been good about their niche streaming services being under $10. Boomerang is $8 a month.
Is it that cheap? I might get that for a while then, because I there's some stuff I've been wanting to show my kids from, you know, my childhood and stuff that I don't need. I don't feel the need to own everything from.
Yeah, I have it. I don't watch it nearly as much as I should, but since it's so cheap, I keep paying for it because at some point I will go back and binge watch a lot of Flintstones or Scooby Doo. But Warner Brothers also had a classic streaming service where it was like older like 40s and 50s movies that you couldn't really get anywhere else, and it was really cheap too. So I'm hoping that they'll stick to that and not go at the like Netflix price level where it's like 15 or so. Well, Netflix isn't really 15, but something of that higher thing, because they're doing both comics and movies, and that's what's got me worried that the price point may be higher than normal. But if it's
I want to think that they're putting the comics in just as a way to sweeten the pot.
I would hope so.
That's what it should be. If it's not that, that's a big mistake. But
yeah,
it just from the advertising they've given us so far with that trailer, it seems like, I guess I'm just talking about a trailer, but it seems like the strategy there is, we were worried that we didn't have enough to entice people, so we're giving you a little bit more, and something that no other streaming service has ever thought to do.
I hope that's the case, and I'm going to buy it regardless because it's DC, and I love DC, and they've got Batman the Animated Series on it, which makes it an automatic buy for me, even though I already have Prime.
But I was going to say, if you got Prime, what's the point of that?
But what I also heard was they're going to have Static Shock on there too. Maybe.
Oh, see.
So if that's on there, then I'm.
Did they ever finish that on DVD?
Yes, June they put out the last season.
Oh, good.
Because I was following the release of that to make sure.
I've got to get those at some point.
Yeah, I was waiting to buy all of them at once, because what they've done, from what I saw, is they do it as like a print on demand. So it's never going to like run out of stock. They're just going to print new ones when people order it through their distributor, I think is how it was. So I didn't have any rush to go out and buy season 1 or 2 when those first got put out. But I'm really hoping that they're going to tie their comics in with their original series, because I want them to put a bunch of Swamp Thing on there, because I've read volume 1 of Alan Moore's run and it's great. I want to read more original Teen Titans. I want to read, depending on what other original series they do down the line, I'd like to read some stuff from. That's
a really good point. I think you can expect a lot of the first things they put on there to be things connected to the shows they're putting out, right?
I would hope so.
But
it's smart business to do that.
And so, you know, like when I think about Harley Quinn, my first thought is, well, I don't care about singles, like singular Harley Quinn stories, but then they might put Secret Six there. They might put some Suicide Squad there. So like, there's some cool stuff that they could do with that as well.
Yeah. And with a Harley Quinn series, it gives me hope that they might put the Batman Adventures run that was based on Batman the Animated Series, and I have that entire run. And
do you really? I didn't know you were
that
that big of a TAS fan.
Oh, I've got all of it, including the first appearance of Harley Quinn.
I'm jealous, man. That's cool. Oh, do you have it all in singles?
All in singles. I went and bought all of them.
Oh no, that's expensive. Yeah, no. The first appearance of Harley Quinn is a $700 or $800 book.
I got it for $200. It's a lower grade, but I was like, "Hey, cover looks great. It's not got any noticeable
what's nuts about that is I have some of those just from when they came out when I was a kid, and I never thought I would see the day that book was worth that much. Like it was everywhere. It wasn't that hard to get your hands on. Like, and it just doesn't feel that long ago. Like 1998, I'd go pick that up in a back issue bin. No big deal.
If anyone has younger people in their family that they're trying to get into comics, I highly recommend the first 3 issues of Batman Adventures, because it literally sets it up as Act 1, Act 2, Act 3 in the book. It puts not like a cover page, but it puts a kind of like a splash page and says Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 on different pages. So it gives a little bit of a story structure for younger kids to kind of follow and get a better idea of how story structure works. But it's also self-contained stories with, at the end, it connects to one larger story. And then in issue 4, it tells that larger story. And then after that, it's just single one and done issues. I love it. I wish we were doing more of that in comics, just in general.
Yeah, and that does tend to continue to be kind of the model for at least with one and done stories for all ages books. I wish we could do that with some other things, but
I do too.
Yeah. Okay, so we should get into Q&A. We are already like 35 minutes into the show, and all we've done is news. So Danny, I'm gonna. And I'll do some channel announcements at the end of the show today, so we can go ahead and get to some Q&A. Danny, I'm gonna answer a question I saw earlier that I was interested in, and then I'll have you start tossing stuff at me. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
Kellen O'Rourke asks, Cap, why is it that the Talia reveal in Dark Knight Rises isn't as loathed or talked about like the Mandarin twist in Iron Man 3, even though the former actually does ruin and hurts the film overall? I think that's a really interesting question. I would, and I think to this day, there are still a lot of people that put Dark Knight Rises up with the rest of the Batman franchise, or the Nolan Batman franchise. I don't. As you know, people know about me. I'm somewhat infamous for my issues with that movie. But I would argue that, and obviously Iron Man 3 is also a really polarizing movie. I would argue that the main reason that doesn't get talked about as much is because even though you think Bane's backstory is one thing, and you get to the end and it turns out that there was somebody else pulling the strings, he's not a fake character.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's the big reason. I think it's really easy to kind of ignore the issues with that. And I understand for people why that maybe isn't even as big of an issue, and get to the end of that movie and say, well, he was menacing and interesting enough to me. And a lot of my issue with Bane has always been, I don't know how much of what he's preaching he really believes in, and what he's really all about besides just doing what Talia wants him to. But I think that's the main thing. I think it's that there really wasn't a Mandarin the way we thought there was. The terrorist Mandarin wasn't a real person. Terrorist Bane was at least still a real person, even though he wasn't exactly what we thought he was until we got to the end.
Yeah.
Or once we got to the end, I should say.
I don't really know if I could pinpoint why why people aren't as outraged by that one as they were with Iron Man 3, because they're both from beloved, like really, really beloved franchises. So I couldn't just point to, well, people are big fans of the Dark Knight trilogy, so they don't want to criticize anything, because people are huge fans of Iron Man and the Marvel universe. So I don't know if that was really it. I think it may just be, it wasn't as obvious of a, I mean, it's very clearly spelled out in the movie that he's not who we thought he was, but, he's not literally an actor playing a terrorist. So maybe that's just what it comes down to.
I also wonder if some people, I also wonder if some people were with Dark Knight Rises longer than they were with Iron Man 3 before they got to that reveal. Or if the issue was they were really intrigued by Mandarin and they were with that movie, and then it turned into a comedic thing, right? So like I could see, I think it might be all of the above with different people, right? Like I think some people with Dark Knight Rises were already invested enough in that movie and weren't worried about some of the things I was worried about from the beginning, going all the way through that movie, that by the time they got to that, it sold it to them okay because they were with it, right? But the other thing is, when you get to that Bane reveal, he doesn't turn into a joke. It's not suddenly a big comedic thing.
Yeah,
and
a tonal shift with the character.
Yeah, and there wasn't this. That was the main thing people were complaining about Marvel movies about already, right? The main criticism people were lobbing at Marvel films is that they're too jokey and they don't take themselves seriously enough, and the Batman movies didn't have that kind of stigma attached to them. So when you got to that with the movie right after Avengers, which a lot of people complained was too Whedon-y, was too jokey, and then the big reveal is he's not the terrorist you thought he was. It's an actor, and we're gonna play it for laughs. I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah. Mr. Roboto has a couple different super chats.
Really good question. And I should mention super chat is open if there's anything you want to make sure we get to today, especially because we're not doing Q&A as long as we usually do. Sorry about that. I had a couple of news things I really wanted to weigh in on. But yeah, go ahead and go to those super chats, sir.
Okay, he says, first, Swamp Thing, why, just why, what's the appeal? For me, it's...
That's a good question. I've never really been a big Swamp Thing fan, yeah.
I'm not really until I read Alan Moore's run, and it's very good. I mean, it took a character that I knew nothing about. I read just because I felt like I was obligated to read it because it's Alan Moore and people talk about it highly, and I was like, oh, this is a really, really interesting character, and I just encourage everyone to go out and at least read the first volume of his run because it's really good. And then after that, he says, "What happened with digital comics as a whole?"
Well, back on Swamp Thing for just a second.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that
no, that's okay. Swamp Thing for me has never been a real intriguing thing because I'm not a big monster guy. That was always more of kind of a Vince and Eric thing before. Actually, I don't think Eric really cares about Swamp Thing either. But that was never really my bag. But I kind of liked that DC started bringing some characters like that more to the forefront, because Marvel always had the Hulk and DC didn't have a lot of really popular characters that were that they used very much anyway, that were at the forefront along with their superhero characters. Because just because you have a universe populated by superheroes doesn't mean you can't do a lot of different kinds of stories and genres, right? So I'm glad that they had that and to represent that. And it also makes a lot of sense that you would have a character that kind of dealt with environmental issues in a superhero world. But I gotta tell you, man, every time I read about the Green, I just fall asleep. Once anybody starts saying the Green, I'm done.
See, I actually like it. And the one thing from Batman and Harley Quinn I like is that they brought Poison Ivy into the mix with Swamp Thing, because it's always one of those things I thought, okay, having Swamp Thing and having the Green and having these environment element based characters suddenly adds more or makes more sense for Poison Ivy to get somehow involved in that after experimenting with plans.
Would it be great if we did that in a movie we could take seriously and that we're not rolling our eyes at?
It doesn't do terrible jokes every 5 minutes.
No, more often than that. Don't give it that much credit, sir.
Yeah. Every 30 seconds.
What was the other super chat again?
What happened with digital comics as a whole?
I guess I don't totally understand that question. There are people still read digital comics. I
actually bought Batman 50 as a digital comic because I was not about to drive all the way to Louisiana on the 4th of July to go pick up my comics. So
oh, that's funny, yeah. But when he says that, I'm trying to figure out the intent of that question. There's obviously an assumption there, right? Is the assumption that digital comics, and feel free to elaborate in the comments here, but is the idea that digital comics were taking off and doing really well and now they're not? I've not looked at numbers if there are. I don't know if that's even a thing you can look into, how well digital comics sell versus print. I kind of doubt it. I've never looked into it, but I don't think there may be some truth to that, because I don't think we're seeing as many digital first comics as we used to. That then get put in print later. So maybe that wasn't doing real well. But what what happened to it, I guess, is, well, it's still there. You still have Comixology. You have more services for it now, and you have more I mean, like a couple. And Comixology's kind of changed what they do. So you can still pay full price and read things when they come out. They have deals all the time. And then they have Comixology Unlimited now, where they have a select number of books that you can read for like $6 a month. And there are more companies that are participating in that now. A few years ago, Image wasn't one of those. You can read Image books now. There were different companies that didn't used to be involved, and they are now. So I don't know how well it's selling, but it's more available than it used to be. And I know that digital comics are very popular overseas, particularly in Europe. Because comics in other parts of the world from here are just so expensive that there are a lot of people that would rather pay our $3 or $4 and not have them physically than the $8 to $10 they have to pay over there.
Yeah. He adds in a second comment, did digital comics die? I don't think they died. I just think I hadn't thought about overseas, but that's a great point. I think
that will keep it alive. That will keep it alive forever, I think.
I think the reason it's not taking off quite so big here in America is a lot of the people who read comics are collectors first, more so than readers, because the people who just read comics tend to get trades, but the people who are buying single issues are doing it for a collection.
I'm surprised as many people pay full price for those as they do. I will never understand that.
Yeah, I'd pay $1.99 maybe for a new comic digitally.
Yeah, I don't even completely understand that. I mean, I've done it a couple times when I'm in a bind and really need to read something to review, but I'm in a different situation. When you're just reading for fun, like, people are not willing to pay for music anymore. I don't get why people are willing to pay for comics. I mean, I guess people do pay for, like, to read on Kindle and stuff. So I guess I guess like that's the market now. That's how we've tried to kind of save the publishing industry. And you pay a premium for that because bookstores died, I guess. But it seems like the subscription model is going to be the wave of the future for that and a lot of things. But I have a hard time imagining like why as many people here are willing to pay full price day and day. And also I'm a little bit surprised that day and day full price has stuck around as long as it has. I really expected it to get cheaper by now. And that tells me that there's probably some kind of a deal that Diamond has. And I guess Comixology is connected to Diamond, is it not?
I don't know enough about the inside out of it. So.
Well, no, it can't, because it's an Amazon company.
Yeah, that's right.
They may have, now that I'm thinking about that, yeah, they may have some kind of a deal where Comixology cannot put those out cheaper day and date, so to keep comic stores running and print in business. But we're coming up on like 10 years of Comixology, I think, 8 or 10, and I predicted a long time ago that would get cheaper quicker than it has. So there's got to be some kind of deals and paperwork that I don't know about that has kept that going. Okay, let's answer some questions. Danny, if you're able to, I'd like to go maybe a little bit longer today.
I'm fine with that.
Is that all right? Okay, cool. So guys, we're gonna answer questions for about 20 minutes. Danny, let's get some rapid fire going. Here we go.
Okay. Jeffrey E. Patron, hey Jeffrey, says,
hi Jeffrey.
Any particular favorite music sequences in Luke Cage season 2 or 1 as well if Cap hasn't gotten that far in season 2?
Oh goodness. I mean, off the top of my head, that's I gotta run back and remember. I've enjoyed some of the music already so far into. I'm not remembering any real particular sequences. I did, yeah. Just right off the top of my head, I'm not sure. Jeffrey, you pay a great deal closer attention to that kind of thing than I do, and so even if I brought something up, I couldn't tell you what the group was, or the number, because I'm not familiar with funk and hip hop and some of the kinds of music that are in that show. First season, there were a couple that I just absolutely loved. There's one song. Let me try to find it because I just don't remember what it's called. You put me on the spot here. What was it? Good Man? Is that the name of that song? That I put in a playlist and have listened to a ton. That was in the first couple episodes of last season. But But yeah, that show's got a sound all its own. It's great. I don't think the music so far has been as good this season, but I'm only 3 episodes in. So yeah. All right, toss some more out, sir.
Lone Wolf Jedi of Gotham. If Sam Raimi had directed a Batman movie, do you think he would have cast Bruce Campbell in a role? If so, who do you think he would? Sorry, I'm reading that wrong. If so, do you think he would have seen a different side of Campbell? Oh, do you think we would have seen a different side of Campbell?
I don't know. It might have been the same thing that he did with Spider-Man, where he just got cameos, right? You know,
That's
like
what I think.
maybe he would have been like a Matt Schreck or something. Yeah, I don't know. I like as you know, some kind of a villain or like henchman guy or something like that. Yeah, I doubt we would have seen a different side of him. He probably, because Batman can obviously be a real heightened crazy kind of thing, like what Tim Burton made. I think if Sam Raimi made a Batman movie, it would have been, I don't mean that it would have been Tim Burton again, but I think it would have probably been pretty stylized. I think Sam Raimi would have brought more of his horror sensibilities to that than he did to Spider-Man. And he would have likely played a real crazy over the top kind of character. Like imagine whatever Tim Burton might have done with him is probably similar to whatever the Sam Raimi would have done with him. That's my guess.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it would have either been a cameo or would have been maybe a character like Harvey Dent that you see throughout a bunch of different movies, and then do kind of like what he was originally planning with Campbell to be Mysterio. So maybe it would have been something like that.
I forgot all about that. Well, and now that you say that, I guess it's possible that he could have tried to cast him as a. I think if he cast him as anything major, it would have been probably a villain or a side villain even.
Yeah.
So I don't know who could Campbell have played. He wouldn't have been. Let me think. I was gonna say he wouldn't have been a bad Two-Face, but he might be a little bit not like pretty boy enough for Two-Face, right?
Yeah, I just threw out Two-Face because that's one you could see throughout movies without him being a villain the whole time.
That's true.
I really can't think of anything that he would.
I don't think he would have been a bad Scarecrow.
No, that would have been fun. Sorry, I'm writing down questions at the moment.
Sure. Yeah, dude, why? We're never gonna get to them all.
No, but I figured I'd have some.
You're gonna be throwing more of those out next week. Yeah, you're getting overzealous again, Danny Nixon.
Oh man, Donnie St. Pierre says, "Did you hear about how Sony uploaded an entire movie instead of a trailer?"
I did hear about that. It was really funny. I don't know what that movie was. I forget now, but I saw an article about that yesterday where it was like if you clicked during this window, you could have watched this entire. That's hilarious. I'm just imagining it was an intern, right?
Had to have been.
Had to have been an intern.
How do you? It's not like YouTube videos upload instantly unless you've got like amazing internet, and even still a 2-hour movie would have taken a lot longer to upload over any internet connect or Wi-Fi connection.
It would have taken a lot longer to upload than a trailer, because if your speed is that fast, the trailer is going to go up almost instantaneously.
You're going to catch it. If
it's that fast, yeah, it would have been like not instant, but like maybe 4 or 5 minutes, right? Because like I have pretty quick internet now, and I can upload a 20-30 minute video in about 8 minutes or so. So I could see somebody posting, but I mean, like, this would have been higher quality and probably wouldn't upload as quickly because it would be in, if not 4K, at least 1080, but probably 4K, right? And so I could see that. I could see that guy or girl getting up and going and getting like a bite to eat and coming back and being like, "Oh, good, my video's uploaded." But I would. This is why I always give the advice: toggle your video to unlisted always before it's posted. As you're uploading, toggle it to unlisted, get it uploaded, check everything, go in, and I made this mistake before, and I mean, every now and again it still happens where, I get a thing uploaded and it turns out that there's some kind of weird technical issue, and I had one the other day that, and I went ahead and left it posted because it already had like 500 views, Danny, the spoiler cast for Jurassic World, where it freezes about 15 minutes in, but the audio stayed, so I just left it. I hate that. But I was like, it already has a lot of really good comments and stuff. I don't want to lose, so I just left it up. But
there's also like 20 minutes of dead silence at the end.
I cut that out. I fixed it.
Okay.
that I can fix. I can't fix the other thing when it's already uploaded. But anyway, so like a thing like that was like, well, it was time sensitive. I wanted to get it up. It was overnight. But so I don't follow this advice all the time myself, but I should. Toggle your video to unlisted, get it posted, click on it, sample it a little bit, make sure it doesn't have any weird errors in the middle, make sure your title's good, make sure your description's good, you know, like edit and revise and stuff.
Maybe I'm just too...
Especially if you're Sony.
Yeah, I would assume Sony would have everything on schedule, everything would be uploaded ahead of time, you would have everything set to it will post at this time, and you would have already double-checked to make sure everything was fine with it. It wouldn't have been something where you upload a full video, no one catches it until a Reddit post blows up saying, hey, Sony just uploaded this entire movie, go watch it. And
that guy got fired 5 minutes after that. They were like, you're done.
He had to have been. And
he's like, well, I'm an intern. I'm only making $9 an hour anyway, so I don't care. Somebody said they hope that happens with Into the Spider-Verse. I thought that was pretty funny. Christopher says the movie wasn't even supposed to be released until August 31st.
Oh, no. Mr. Roboto has another super chat and says, how have obscure characters stayed despite sales? I'm assuming this is talking about comics as well.
I would assume comics over anything else, right? I mean, we haven't really had this happen so much with obscure characters in movies, where you have like a character that gets a movie and then you know, it's really obscure and nobody cares, but we keep making sequels. I don't think that's really happened yet. But you know, you have them.
Steel 5.
You have no. You'll have to tell me about that one, Danny. I wasn't. Yeah, and by that point they had already replaced Shaq like 4 times. He did it one more time, but not until 4. He came back for 4.
Well, actually, they replaced him twice, or they replaced the actor twice in one movie. It's weird.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Did the first guy die in the middle of production and then they brought back Shaq? Was that the one he was in the second time? That must have been what it was.
No, it wasn't even a Crow scenario where they had to replace the character. It was just, you know what? Let's replace this character midway through. No one's going to notice. No one's going to notice that Shaq, who's like 8 feet tall, gets replaced with Kevin Hart.
Yeah. No one's gonna. We know only 18 people are seeing this movie. We're just gonna mess around now. Anyway, but in comics, I think there are several reasons that happens. I think sometimes it's this is gonna be me sounding overly positive again, while Danny immediately leaps to no money mill, big corporations, money milking. But I think sometimes it's legitimately editorial, taking a chance on a thing and letting it run a story course. So sometimes I think you'll have like plans for an 8 or 12 issue story arc, and even if it's not selling well, they'll let it run out its course because they have a good relationship with the writer or artist and they really wanted to make this thing. Sometimes those things get canceled and sometimes they don't. I think it's just a case by case basis. I think sometimes it's kind of maybe clout by a bigger writer or artist on a thing, where it's just a thing they really wanted to make, and so they're going to get it out because they are who they are. Maybe I don't know. And sometimes I think we look at books that look with obscure characters and we think they can't possibly be selling. And if you went and looked at the numbers, you'd realize they are actually doing better than you thought they were. And also, there are different tiers for these kinds of things. So certain books are expected to do, if they're major characters, are expected to do a lot better than other things. So like if you are Spider-Gwen, you can get away with 15,000 and stick around maybe. If you are Aquaman, you're expected to do better numbers than that. And so that's and I don't say Aquaman to say like a big A-list character, though he's gotten more to that place. But I think so too, yeah. But I think Aquaman is one of those characters that was real hit or miss, wasn't always going to have an ongoing because he is, a big enough name that maybe he's expected to have better sales than a smaller character. But also, I guess he was just in that kind of situation for a while where it was like he is thought of as more of a B or C-list character, even though I guess he shouldn't be. That it's just not immediately expected he's always going to have a book. So it just depends on who we're talking about.
Yeah. I think it's also it's a lot cheaper to take a chance in comics on a character who may not sell too well. You're not investing millions and millions and millions of dollars hoping it pans out. And 2, we're kind of living in an age where, at least in comics, like the writer is carrying books a lot of the time. Like Mr. Miracle would not have gotten a run if it wasn't Tom King working on it.
Yeah, of course, sure.
Or any, I'm not too familiar with Marvel or what is obscure in Marvel, but I'm sure it's the same over there, where if a big name wants to write a smaller character because they, loved it in the 70s or whatever, when they were first getting into comics, the publisher will give them, sure, you can do that as long as you're doing this big name title that's going to sell to make up for it. So
that's true. That's exactly what they're doing with Tom King. But I think, but it's important to note that smaller characters don't only get books just because we put big names on them.
No, absolutely not. I just was using that as an example because I can't think of a more obscure character than Miracle Man right now that's got an ongoing. Because
sure, yeah, because like we tried that Scarlet Spider book, but it wasn't like people were buying that just because it was Peter David. I mean, Peter David has his fan base, but that was a book that was like, I don't really expect there to be an audience for that Scarlet Spider, but they tried it anyway.
Cinematographic asks, hey Cap, given the choice between Tron Legacy, Jurassic World, I'm assuming that's talking about Fallen Kingdom, Independence Day Resurgence, or Blade Runner 2049, which is your least favorite sequel?
Well, 2049 is a near masterpiece. I mean, I'm going to say Independence Day Resurgence, yeah? That movie had, I think, some real potential in premise, and is one of those really unfortunate things where it kind of starts after the story starts. I complain a lot about movies that start before a story starts, but Resurgence was had like a really interesting premise in the background of things that were happening in the 20 years in between Independence Day and that movie, with like stray aliens on Earth and stuff, and what people were doing with technology and stuff. It would have been interesting to do a story set then, and then there's this really irritating sequel bait at the end, where it's like, and now we're going to them, and like, I don't know, maybe that movie would have also been a little bit more interesting than what we had, but there was too much of the like it has to be that movie again but different kind of attitude. And it, like Fallen Kingdom, is goofy and out there and really over the top, but it feels forced about it, because the difference between Independence Day and Jurassic Park is that Independence Day was already, to a degree, kind of a glorified B movie. And Jurassic Park has its dumbness, but is a way more credible story with more thoughtful ideas and more believable three-dimensional characters than that movie, although not as developed as they might have been. And then it produces in Fallen Kingdom the most whacked out there glorified B movie I've seen in a long, long time. And it's not good, but I enjoyed the crap out of it, and I think I really like it for the insanity that it is. Danny, I may go see it again.
Really?
Yeah, I'm having too much fun with it. I can't stop. I can't stop talking about it. I'm having so much fun talking about it. Have you seen it yet?
No, I still haven't seen it. After everything I've heard from you about it, I'm not all that thrilled to go out and see it. I like cheesy B. Oh,
it's so wild. Well, and the thing is,
you go see it though.
Yeah, and it's more fun if you're blindsided by it, because I've told you everything.
Yeah, this will probably be one that I wait until it's on Redbox or something like that to go see it.
Okay, but do you think you can make the Jurassic House shirt without having seen it?
Absolutely, because the ideas we had for it that you had talked about and the ones Eric brought up in the video, I was like, oh, I can run wild with these, and I'm
so excited about it. Yeah, I want to make those available. No pressure or nothing, Danny, but I really want to get that out soon, because I want to get on that while the iron's hot. I haven't looked to see if anybody else has made it. I hope we're the only ones, because it was such a funny idea, and I need that shirt tomorrow. I want to buy that for everyone I know, man. Jurassic House, yeah. That, I don't know how that wasn't the name of that movie.
I'll get back to work on it, because I had a couple ideas I was working on and just
cool.
Had really
no. I'm sorry, Danny. No pressure. Take your time, man. I just, I'm really excited about the Jurassic House shirt.
Blue Dragon 5 asks, hey Cap, aside from Todd McFarlane, who is the most interesting writer or artist to you?
Interesting in like you're at Thanksgiving dinner and you're trying to be polite about the food kind of interesting, or
yeah, this macaroni salad is very interesting.
That's interesting. Wow, that's a real blindsidey kind of question. Interesting in like being kind of against the grain, not the norm, kind of right. And he said writer or artist.
Writer or artist, and I think the reason he mentioned Todd McFarlane is because by interesting he means bad at one, but good at the other.
Okay, yeah, you're reading in some sarcasm into that.
So if that wasn't the intention, Blue Dragon, I'm sorry, but that's just how it read to me.
If that's the case, I mean that's easier to answer. The obvious answer there is Liefeld.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, obviously that's the first place I go.
And the Pouch Man sketch, right, or the Pouch sketch, where it's just the guy made of a bunch of different pouches.
No.
Oh, I'll have to send you some of the pictures. It's amazing.
That sounds great.
It's a guy whose head is a pouch. Everything he's wearing is a pouch. He's got a giant, oversized '90s gun that is just a bunch of pouches. I want it as a comic book now, just so I can own it as a number one.
I guess Greg Land is interesting because of the subjects that he borrows from.
That's the guy who traces a bunch of questionable
pornography. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's. Oh man.
Yeah, he is interesting. I don't actually mind his art, but if you do any research into it at all, you find out, oh yeah, this is where he got his stuff from, and it's more problematic because he does the same things over and over again. Like if he always went to different images, it wouldn't be as big of a deal. But you can see some of the same things he's gone to like 7 or 8 times. I've been told anyway.
I think I saw one where he's literally tracing facial expressions, and that's just not okay.
I mean, to be fair, okay, so J.K. Woodward does the same thing, and I don't mind it with him because he's doing like fully painted artwork, and when he's kind of tracing facial expressions, it's for specific characters, and he wants to get the look perfect. So he only does that, as far as I'm aware, with when he's working on like licensed properties. So he'll, like, if he's doing TNG, he'll go to facial expressions from episodes of TNG. I guess my problem with it is I know that show too well, so I can always tell where they came from, and that kind of takes me out a little bit. But
yeah, I would be a hypocrite if I said it's unacceptable to trace. I'm just talking about if you're doing a comic for Marvel and you're tracing adult actors.
I wish you just left it. I wish you just left it so that we had like 50 comments where people are like, Danny Nixon, how dare you? Have you seen what you do for Superhero Rewind? We all know what you do, Danny Nixon.
Yeah, I actually do those blindfolded, so I have not seen them.
That's amazing. I don't know how you do that.
Very carefully. I've got a topographical computer, so when I put I just feel around. No.
Wow. Danny, I didn't know you were going to be the most fun person to BS with on the channel, but
I didn't know that either. I'm normally not extroverted. I'm very introverted.
We got it. Yeah, I bring it out in people, Danny. We got another super chat from Mr. Roboto, $2. I don't understand the super chat, but thank you very much for supporting the channel. Captain Logan and Eric, $20.99 beyond an amalgam. Does he mean like us amalgamated and $20.99 and us beyond?
It's an amalgam between Captain Logan and Eric, $20.99, and Captain Logan and Eric Beyond. You take those two different ideas and and push them together to make one amalgam.
It's horrifying, yeah. Danny, if we ever do the comic that we talked about, where we do like the Days of Future Past thing, I guess the follow-ups could be like one-shot stories that are other big like futuristic comic arcs like that, right? Like you do Captain Logan 2099, and I like amalgam. That's an amusing idea.
I think Captain Logan Beyond needs to be the Geekvolution channel with Freddie and Jason taking the reins.
You know, I almost like that as much as Geekvolution: The Next Generation. That's pretty good.
Oh, here's the next question that's been asked a few times by Mario 500 now. Cap, have you ever seen the version of Superman the movie, the extended cut?
We talked about that. We talked about that a few weeks ago. Yeah, there's apparently another one that came out that I've not seen. Apparently, I've not looked into this. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that. Let's do a couple more real quick, Danny, if we can.
Okay. William Parcell, Cap, what do you think will happen if Sony pulls Spidey out of the MCU? Oh, y'all talked about that a bit. How will we
have kind of talked about that some, have we not?
Yeah. Sorry, William Parcell. I'll get to another question of yours because you asked a few. Cap, do you think Cinema 3D is dead?
Cinema 3D.
3D
I mean,
movies.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious to see if that goes away in the next few years because I don't hear anybody talking about it. The novelty has completely worn off. When was the last time, Danny, you heard somebody say you have to see that in 3D or you haven't fully experienced it?
Avatar.
Yeah, and then the question is that going to be the thing that brings it back again?
God, I hope not.
I hope not too, yeah.
I wear glasses. I want to put glasses over my glasses to go get a headache from 2 different glasses while sitting in a movie that is going to be Dancing with Wolves with Smurfs Part 2.
Well, and I would go see a movie called that, but as a lot of people know, no, I won't. I wouldn't. That sounds terrible, and it sounds sort of like a porno flick, really. But
it's a South Park joke, so that might be where they got it from.
Oh, okay, sure. No, as a lot of people know, I have a handicap when it comes to 3D. I can't see it. So the main reason, just selfishly, that I would love to see it go away, Danny, is it still affects, to this day, it's not as bad as it used to be, but it still affects what times I can go see movies.
Yes.
You'll have a theater where it's the perfect time. It's when I wanted to see it, but it's in 3D, so I can't go. And it's annoying to have to go to certain shows and pay more than I would have just to get the time I want. I still do that sometimes. You'll have one that's like IMAX or XD, and it's like, this is not a movie I need to spend $5 more to go see big, but I will because I don't have time to go at 8:30, but I can go at 7. That's already annoying, but you'd have less of that if you got rid of the 3D theaters. And the big thing I've never understood, because I can't see in 3D, so I don't appreciate the novelty, but I still can't imagine. My imagination cannot, and obviously I can imagine what it looks like because I know what it's supposed to do, right? It's supposed to feel like it's coming kind of at you. I get that. So what I don't get is how that is worth 30% less illumination. I'm going to look at a darker screen just to have. I don't understand that. I feel like I'm missing something from the film that way.
I hate it, and I have the local theater in my town is not an AMC or a Regal. It is an independently owned theater with very few screens. So anytime there's a big showing, one screen is dedicated to 3D, the other is dedicated to 2D. And the showings for the 3D are always like better times, more convenient. It's like at 2D is at 6 o'clock, 3D is at 7. I'd rather go to the 7 just so I can beat some traffic. I hate it. 8
shades of obnoxious.
It is. And it gets really bad when it's a big movie like Infinity War, where they dedicate 2 screens to the 2D, 1 screen to the 3D. So a movie that I had been meaning to see but didn't get a chance to go see because I hadn't had a chance to get out to the theater gets taken out of the theater early so they have more rooms for more screens for a movie in 3D that I don't see how anyone wants to go see it in 3D because 3D just does not look really all that good to me. It looks like you've got 2 layers of construction paper. One's back here, one's right here. It doesn't really look 3D. It just looks like a 2D image popped out from the other 2D image, and I don't like it.
I don't get why people care about that, but then I guess they don't as much as they used to. Connor says that 3D has already died in the home market, and again, I've not heard of a lot of people that. The only people that I've ever heard that bought a 3D TV are the kinds of people that seem to have whatever the brand new cool thing is, just so that they can say, "I bought the brand new cool thing," and that didn't last very long. Like
we have, even in the TV sector, we've completely abandoned the idea of like the 3D screen because one, they had to make it so anyone sitting at any direction could actually see it how it's supposed to look like when you're seeing it dead on. And plus we've got 4K and now kind of getting closer to the 8K TV. So they're focusing more on picture quality rather than gimmicks, which I appreciate because,
I would think we would be moving, and maybe I'm just kind of, showing you my own interest and bias, but I would think that we would be moving more toward trying to get bigger than trying to get more gimmicky, right? I don't get why, like trying to create the theater experience at home as much as humanly possible. I don't get why more people don't do what I do and use a projector screen.
I thought to do that, but my room's not big enough, and my wall is kind of at an angle where it's cut.
Oh, sure, like some, but there are,
I can't, but I would love to.
Right, but that room also couldn't handle a lot of big size TVs either.
No, not at all. Absolutely.
But I don't understand that. Just people that like own houses and have a good sized living room, because projectors have gotten down in cost to about where a lot of big screen TVs are, and you can get a screen and you can shoot a lot larger. And it kind of gives you a little bit of that movie theater experience. I just don't know why more people don't do that. I've been doing it for years. I love it.
Yeah, a couple years ago I was going to get one of those big inflatable things that you
G-Stone has one.
Awesome.
And like nothing against people that like big TVs. Obviously, that can be really cool too. It's just my own personal preference, and I wonder if more people don't kind of share it.
I would rather move a projector than a big giant TV.
See that exactly. And the other thing too is it's portable. So like if you had an event somewhere, you wanted to go to somebody's house or something, like you could bring it with you and have that giant experience. It's great for parties. I mean, we have movie showings over here all the time.
Yeah, I'd imagine that'd be a great use for it, because if you need to, you can move it back and make the picture a little bit bigger, or you can move it to a different place where the screen, or where you can project it somewhere where it does look bigger if your living room isn't big enough to handle a bunch of people, or something like that. At some point I would love to get a projector, and Don Draper says a 4K projector with Android on it is $80, so that's a pretty good price. That's a really
Does
good
he mean
price,
80 or 800?
I hope he means 80.
Well, that's not that's a bad projector if that's the case. Like it wouldn't have the right bulb or the right what am I trying to say? Setup in it. Mine I think was like a 700 or 800 on sale.
Oh, then he probably does mean 800 then.
Yeah. But anyway, do we have time for one more?
Yes. John Early says, I recently read an article on Batman News, and it said the future of DCEU is standalone movies. My question is, do you think the DCEU films line up continuity-wise?
In general, there are obviously mistakes and gaffes, and then just a lot of course correction and stuff. I was a little bit surprised, honestly, that Justice League and BVS had their ducks in a row as well as they did with Wonder Woman. As far as her background went, they already knew what that cast was going to be, and they had shot a photo, so that's cool. But yeah, I mean, by and large, I don't know that continuity is the problem so much as character motivation. Like
that was
right, and just characterization, where like a lot of the events they're able to keep straight, but I don't often buy how people are reacting to them. So we talk about Superman in Suicide Squad and in Justice League like he is a completely different character than he was in BVS, and I don't buy that he inspired people the way he apparently inspired people.
Yeah, it's not that the continuity of the movies doesn't line up, it's that they try to rewrite the history of how people feel about the characters, because Man of Steel and BVS are all about people not trusting Superman. I don't buy in that world that just him dying in the Doomsday whole that thing would inspire enough people to suddenly love Superman. And then apparently in the little bit of time that he was there, he made a cynical world turn into an optimistic world that immediately became another cynical world after his death that we see in Justice League. That just doesn't line up to me. So
and then
continuity, it's not great, but
those movies aren't self-aware enough because they don't seem to realize how cynical Superman himself seemed to kind of be. And so he inspires people, and maybe I buy that if they don't understand him, but then Justice League isn't about, and of course, I mean, like Joss Whedon was just kind of course correcting with it, and basically trying to retcon what Superman was, of course. But just looking at it purely as looking at the question purely, does the continuity work? Well, the problem is that isn't a movie about people being wrong about who Superman was. At the end of the day, we're kind of told that he's who everybody thought he was, even though in that movie he still has the same central reasons for doing what he's doing, and we have every reason to think that if things had gone the way that they were, that the Flash from the future told us they wouldn't be VS, he would have ended up being a despot, a fascist. So what are the films saying about their Superman?
Yeah, in none of the films that they've done, Do I believe that this Superman is ultimately good and that he wouldn't go that route if Lois Lane
especially
dies?
because it told us he would. I don't know what it's saying about that character.
I don't even think they know. I think I think it's just
it's just shock factor, right?
Yeah, they saw how popular Injustice was and how much people love Superman and that, and they wanted to do that, but they also wanted to try to appease the he's the all-American truth, justice, American way Superman, but the two
You're right. And
always line up how they were trying to get it to line up. So
that, yeah, the big problem with the Snyder movies, of course, is trying to make everybody happy at the same time. You have to think about it like you're watching a different movie scene to scene.
Yeah, and at least with BVS, if you watch each scene like it's a music video and you're just watching the one scene, it's cool. It looks really good. It's a lot of fun each scene to scene, but as a movie, it just doesn't come together the way I was.
No, I would argue that the continuity issues are mostly interior to the films, right? They're isolated. The continuity issues are, we saw one thing, the characters are talking about something else entirely.
Yeah, but as far as the timeline goes, it lines up really well.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting.
The opening of BVS is the tightest bit of continuity I've ever seen to another film ever, with how the different POV of the Superman
it's great.
Fight lines up.
No, that's really cool.
It's awesome.
And man, I mean, we got 5 minutes in that movie, and I was like, we're in for a treat. This is gonna work. They figured it out.
I know. I think
that's one of the reasons BVS is so disappointing. Is that opening scene? They won me over so hard.
Same with me, because I had watched a non-spoiler review before going into it, and they talked about how it opens up with him young Bruce Wayne falling into the cave and then getting lifted up by the bats. And they're like, at first I wasn't so sure about where this was going, but then when you see what that actually is, you buy it. And I was like, oh, this is what they're talking about. Okay, if this is the worst that we're going to get, I'm fine with that, because I kind of like the idea of a dream sequence of him being lifted up by the bats as a symbolism, and then the rest of the movie is about as disconnected as it could be.
Man, I've never thought of this. Mr. Roboto said oh no, I'm sorry. Hamza says the Justice League mustache fiasco could have been fixed if they gave him a beard.
Yeah, it could have, and apparently that was one of Zack Snyder's original ideas for the character.
They should have done that.
Just give him a beard, because it's a whole lot easier to CGI a beard than apparently it is to CGI an upper lip.
Yeah, of course, sure. Well, but also you wouldn't have to CG it. You could just give him a fake one that goes with the mustache.
Exactly, or tell him to grow it out.
And it might look okay. Right, he could grow it. Yeah, but you probably wouldn't have time for that, right?
Maybe, but yeah. Either way, it seems like a much better way to go.
Although the way that mustache was, that would still potentially look kind of weird because it was kind of handlebar-y.
Was it? I thought it was like the cop kind of like mustache that Chris Evans.
It is, but it goes off far enough that I don't know if you could blend it with a beard real well. This is such a weird conversation.
Tune in next time for more talk about CGI/prosthetic beards.
Yeah, and I don't know what they should have done, because you can't just not have Superman. Yeah. Be like, if you have to reshoot I guess what I'm saying is, I want to see the Snyder cut so that I can go, okay, yep, they had to reshoot things. There was no other way around it. But at the very least, you don't open your movie with a phone shot right up on your face. You don't do that.
I was sitting pretty far to the back in a screen that wasn't very great when I saw the movie the first time, and I knew it immediately. I was like, oh man, I don't normally notice bad CGI as clearly when I'm at this theater, but this time I was.
Well, can we even call it? I mean, I guess it is CGI, but what it looks more like, what it looks like is like bad erasing, right?
Yeah, it looks like someone who's taken their first year of Photoshop used the clone tool to try to clone his skin tone over that mustache. I
want to think there's a better way to do it, and I bet they were just at the 11th hour and they rushed it really hard. But then don't shoot it like that. I mean, I'm sure somebody told Joss Whedon no, don't worry, shoot whatever you want to, it'll look fine, it won't be a problem. And he said okay, and a lot of directors are, I'm sure, used to trusting their special effects guys, and when they say we can do it, you say okay, it's on you when it doesn't work, but it's not on you, because the director is always going to get blamed for stuff like that.
By the time he had finished filming that and they were in post-production, wasn't he already done with the movie that required him to have that beard, that mustache? So couldn't they have done something to get a model of his face and then kind of done what Rogue One did and just put his face over his own face? Wouldn't
That's
that have looked better?
Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Is how hard would it have been to just superimpose it? I mean, I guess the problem is you would need a mouth that was moving in the same way it was moving, right?
I mean, we do ADR already. Surely they could get him in there to film over what he was saying.
Yeah, but wouldn't it have to be almost exact?
Maybe.
Or could you could you mocap it so that you can manipulate it in post so that you can like move the lip around?
Isn't that what they did with? I know that's what they do with Planet of the Apes, but surely they did that with Rogue One too to mocap all the facial expressions so they could get it.
Probably so expensive they wouldn't go in for it because it's just to remove a mustache.
With all the money they put into that movie, they couldn't have put a little bit more in to make sure his face.
I'm with you. I'm with you. But even if that looked great when that news came out, we were still making fun of it for that. Like Henry Cavill had to mocap his own face so that we could get rid of a mustache.
And then we'd be sitting here saying, "How hard is it to remove a mustache?"
How hard is that? Yeah, no, they can't win no matter what they do. Yeah.
The comic book fandom can never be pleased, and that's what we're ultimately discovering here.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I'm gonna make fun of that. It looks really funny.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? Well, anyway, folks, that's gonna do it for us today. We went over a long time. We had about an hour and a half show today. But I wanted to talk about some news things at the beginning, and then Danny and I got into making up things, and it was great. It was fun. Anyway, I hope you guys had a good time. We sure appreciate you being here. Check out the Geekvolution Omnibus. It is all up. So if you go check out the playlist, you can watch any and all of the 12 videos that we shot last week that you want to. And if not, they will be coming out publicly one every day for the next 3 weeks. I also wanted to mention a couple other things. In August, I will make a more official announcement about this in the next couple weeks, but I want to start talking about it and get people interested in thinking about it. Next month, I'm going to be starting the Geekvolution Creative Writing Workshop, which is going to be a monthly Google Plus hangout with me and writers who are interested in having their work read out loud and critiqued and discussed with a group that I will be leading. And what I'll do is the plan right now, and I got to... this is not perfectly set in stone yet, but I'll just tell you kind of basically what I'm going to be after with this. We're going to let anybody and everybody that wants to be involved in this up to 10, because that's how many people I can put in a Google Hangout. So I guess 9, because I would be one of the people in the Hangout. And I guess if we have more takers than that, I'm sure not everybody will show up every month, so we'll figure out how to handle it. But anyway, it would be up to 9 people in a call every month, and we'd probably go a couple of hours, and you can bring something you're working on already. Folks just have to understand that it's important that you can take criticism. I will be constructive, but I will not pull punches. I want to help people become better writers and help improve whatever it is you're working on. So folks that can't take criticism, that's not going to be the place for you. You will not enjoy working with me. But what we're going to do is you can bring in whatever it is you want to work with, that you're working on, or I'm going to have kind of a separate track where I'll give writing prompts and you can work on short stories, and that's kind of more the beginner writer track, and I'll kind of give assignments, and you can either play it more as a class or as a writer's workshop. I'm going to have both of those tracks available for it. It's going to be $10 monthly dues on Patreon, and that's how you can enter that group, and you can do it for 1 month, or you can do it for every month that we do the thing. I plan to keep this going on a regular basis. And so if you have any questions about it, send me a message on Facebook or Twitter, and I'll make a more official announcement about that soon. I'm going to be starting work on, I still haven't gotten started on it. I'm going to be starting work soon on the Daredevil Season 1 Superhero Rewind. That's going to start next week. I'm hoping to get that out in the next week or two, I should say, because that's going to take some time to work on, and I haven't started writing yet. So anyway, that's everything I have to talk about today. So thanks a lot for watching, folks. Sure appreciate it. And Danny, thanks for being here, man.
Thank you for having me once again.
Bye, everybody. We sure appreciate it.
Bye, guys.